to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moment of silence. Thank you.
Alderman Wadawa.
Here.
Alderwoman Calderon.
Here.
Alderman Brickner.
Here.
Alderman Fire.
Here.
Alderman Damon.
Here.
Alderwoman Fliss.
Here.
Mayor Tutai.
Here.
The meeting has been properly posted and noticed.
Telephonic meeting participation, none. Public hearing, none. Presentation, preliminary planned unit development conceptual review from Hidden Ponds.
I'm not used to speaking publicly with a mask on, so I've been told to use the microphone. But if it's too muffled, let me know and I'll figure out a different way. Says it's on? Can you hear? Okay, good. My name is Nancy Haggerty from Michael Besson Friedrich. I'm the attorney for the developer of Hidden Ponds Condominium. I also have Rob Malloy here, who is the project property manager there and also manages the condominium association there, so that he can talk a little bit about how the unit owners are managing and maintaining the property. We are here today to just bring you up to speed about what the development has been in the past, and the fact that we are requesting recommendation to the Plan Commission for an amendment to the PUD agreement, and asking you to confirm that we have met the requirements of your ordinances for the preliminary concept review. So again, this is going to be a little clumsy, but I'll give it a try. Like so?
Wipe it.
Okay. All right. So your ordinances have particular requirements of a list of things that we have to provide to you in order to have the preliminary concept review, and then we would go next to the Plan Commission to give more detailed information. This is, I'm going to tell you just one thing we are not talking about. The Hidden Ponds, there you go. There's a little duplex lot in the very beginning of this, which also has been proposed for development under a whole separate plan. We're not talking about that today. We're just talking about the condominium development that's there. I think you know where it is. It is actually a triangular piece of land that ends here. There's a big We Energies easement across here of open land. On this side, it has railroad right-of-way on its full length, and it's really only on the south side where there are residential lots facing Denton Avenue, where it abuts against any other users. According to the city zoning map, this is, and I forget if I have this exactly in the same order, this shows facing from the roadway towards the lots on Denton Avenue with the security, or the fence, and then other landscaping. This shows the entrance onto KK that's very wooded. And this also shows you more clearly there's another duplex lot up here which we're not talking about. This is kind of an unusual situation because this property back in 2006 was declared as a condominium. And I don't want to insult anyone who doesn't know how a condominium works, but let me just explain that a document was recorded in the Register of Deeds office that declared 22 different buildings with 4 units each. Once a condominium declaration is recorded against a property, even if the buildings aren't built, each of these little squares of a unit becomes a legal unit, whether it's built or not. So this structure, this layout of these buildings can't be changed unless you amend the whole condominium declaration, which would require the consent of all of the people who have already bought units and all their lenders, and the percentages are very high. So we're really stuck with kind of this particular layout. And I'll show you later on some of the drawings. The roads are in, the utilities are in, everything's already in place that a normal PUD agreement already requires. So this is how the condominium is laid out and how it looks. Each of those condominium units that was created, whether it's built or not, has a separate tax key number, is a separate tax parcel, gets a separate tax bill, and has been paying taxes since 2006 when the condominium was created. Okay? This shows you, unfortunately, the condominium plat is divided into 3 pages, which is not very easy to see. And then it goes on to show for each unit exactly what the layout is. Whoa, I didn't intend to do that. How do I make it bigger again?
If
Touch
you
the
hit the
page again.
screen, or the
Drawing.
page that you want,
That makes it bigger?
Yep.
Okay, you're teaching me.
Just like a tablet.
All right, got it. All right. This is a page from your zoning map for your city, and it's not real clear to see, but it is, this is a grade area, this whole, all the boundaries, the aqua boundaries there are the boundaries of the condominium. Everything inside that aqua boundary is either a unit or it's a common area, okay? Common areas are owned by every single unit owner. So for example, this piece of grass over here is owned 1/88th by the lady who bought the first unit, and this person who bought that, and that person who bought that. It isn't as if this is open area that just one person owns. Everybody there who owns a unit owns a common interest in the roads, the pond, and things like that. And this is just the second page of your zoning map that shows its zone plan development. Okay. I'm going to leave this one up. Oh no, now I got it too big. Can I make it smaller? There. Okay. I'm going to just make it a little bit.
technology is great when it works.
I have a paper copy over there to make it easier. Anyway, I'm going to leave this one up because I think this is the one thing that makes it easier to understand. Your ordinances require that we have to first meet with staff. We met with Mark. We talked to your engineer. We gave you a thick packet of an application for amendment to the PUD agreement that had in it all of the things that were required for the PUD. Actually, we gave you more than the things that were required just for the preliminary review because we wanted to bring everybody up to speed as fast as we can. The yellow buildings are the buildings that are not yet built. And you see they hopscotched around a little bit. So these buildings are all built. These buildings are all built. People have bought those units and they're living in them. The yellow buildings have not yet been built. The yellow buildings are all platted, as is the word we use, as condominiums of 2 units up, 2 units down, each with a 2-car garage, and I think they're 2-bedroom and a den.
Yes.
Okay. When we met with the village administrator, he expressed an interest in 2
City.
things.
City administrator.
What?
City
City.
administrator.
City administrator, I keep saying that wrong. 2 things. One, whether or not a proposal could be made to reduce the density. And secondly, he liked the idea of having some variety of bigger units because he feels that there is more of a demand for bigger units with more bedrooms. So what we have discussed with them is, the concern especially was that people who have homes along Denton Avenue may want less density here. So the proposal that we have on the table right now that will then go to the Plan Commission is that these buildings, instead of having 4 units in each, 2 up and 2 down, could be built as side-by-side duplexes so that each half of that building would be an upper and lower duplex, which ends up being almost a 3,000 square foot unit. Each unit would have 4-car garage, and there would be 4 bedrooms and 3 baths plus a den in each one of the units. So if you felt there was a need for bigger units and less density next to Denton, that's what we're trying to talk through and figure out if that makes sense. Now, of course, with much bigger units, they're going to be more expensive to build and more expensive to sell. But if that's what the city is requiring of us in order to see if the market is there, we can give that a try. Again, I told you that we're kind of locked into this rigid formula where this already has been declared. But I do have one trick I can use, and that is I can take the upper and lower unit on one half of that building, and I have a process in the condominium law where I can combine them so that the upper and lower become one unit, and then they would be built side by side. Building 11, which is over here, was built this way, was built with a side-by-side duplex. In other words, it's 2 buildings with a gap in between, which creates some sound dampening function. And it also meets the only law a code that apparently seems to have changed since we last had our building plans approved, do allow side-by-side like that. and it has something to do with the sprinkling system that we can deal with the engineer on. So what we're trying to do is live within the thing we can't change, which is the layout of the condominium, and yet satisfy the city's request for bigger units and for less density. By combining it this way, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 buildings. You would only have 12 units down there instead of 24. So that is the concession that the developer is willing to do, even though it'll cost him money, and see if that's where the market wants to go. So that's the biggest point I want to make. This just shows, we've got a site plan that shows what the first floor plan would look like now with that kind of unit, what the second floor plan would look like now. And since everybody's working from home now, we create a study and 3 bedrooms upstairs. That gives a lot of flexibility for people who need a place to work, or maybe have 2 people at home both working. And someone had an idea that people who have a lot of antique cars or are downsizing could use those 4 garages. Okay. I'm going to go on this side now just to make it easier. The city was kind enough to give us the as-built plans that you already had in your files. When we look at the ordinance of all the things we have to provide for the PUD plan, I think they're almost all in. You already have the site plan. You already have the master grading plan. See, for the whole development?
Just double tap on it again until you make it the size you want. There you go.
Okay. Well, I think you get the idea because it's too small for you to see at a distance anyway. But the erosion control plan is already in. The water and sewer plans are already in. And the water and sewer lines are actually in up to the buildings. The electrical is in up to the buildings. The grading is in. The pond is in. So you'll see that most of the things that you would be requiring if you were starting from scratch with the new PUD agreement are already in place on the property. So we feel that we can build this out, deliver quite a bit more tax revenue to the city, actually reduce the condominium expenses to the unit owners, because right now the unit owners that are there are bearing all of the cost of the outdoor landscaping and the outdoor lighting and things like that. I'd like to just have Bob say a couple of words about how the association has is being managed and has maintenance, maintains that area as required by the PUD ordinance.
I've been with the organization since 2015. I'm not a resident here, but I work on behalf of the developer to try and, my title is Vice President of Developmental Affairs, but trying to, as a go-between between the owner, the homeowners association, and the contractor, to try and smooth this over until this day came when we come back ready to ask for your permission to continue the project. Toward that end, a couple of things that I do. We've gotten the homeowners association back involved, elected resident owners sitting on that board, and we have regular consistent meetings up until COVID. We were meeting monthly or bi-monthly to discuss both the formal contract evaluations and then some of the informal things about what types of maintenance issues that were arising. They're the ones, the owners are the ones who have final approval on the budget, on the people we use to provide the services, the snow plowing and the grass cutting. And we have consistently moved in a direction of getting better service providers and managing that cost in a consistent way. And we try to be responsive about it. We've had some other issues which we've been trying to be responsive, especially along the lot line at Denton. Occasionally limbs have fallen, and we've worked to clean those issues up right away, taken some limbs down, and tried to maintain build some relationship with some of the people on Denton to be good neighbors, short-term and long-term, on behalf of the Homeowners Association. But going forward, we're looking forward to, we've gotten more involvement and more feedback from the homeowners. We have a list of people who are expressed some interest in being members of the board in the future. At this point, again, we have 2 seats that we reserved, and sooner rather than later, that's going to be 3 and 4 as we transition completely over. The goal is to build these units and turn this over so it's actively managed by the homeowners association in its entirety. We've tried to develop sort of the skills, the budgeting, the contracting, so that this is not just going to be so that the transition, it's been smooth, and we wish to continue that until we're done. But my function now and past and for the foreseeable future will be to continue to work ideally with the city and the homeowners to get this project on a day-to-day basis moving along. So, thank you. I'll give you that back.
Thank you.
All right, so just in conclusion, we believe that our application has met all the requirements for the preliminary concept review and ask for you to make a recommendation to pass this on to the Plan Commission for the detailed review so that we can get the rest of this built out and get the unit owners in charge. I don't know if you want me to answer questions. I didn't know if that was the plan or not.
I do have a question.
Go ahead.
Nancy, you identified duplex, and I think a lot of cities understand the definition of a duplex as a side-by-side or an up or down rental unit. Your intent, the developer's intent, is not to build these out and rent these. The developer's intent is to sell these as individual condominium units. Now, it doesn't say that the individual owners can't rent these, but there really isn't any intent on the developer of building these out to use them as rentals, is there?
Well, duplex, I guess, is something that may have conjured that up in your mind, but we're talking about duplex from the point of view of just a pure architectural definition.
Right.
It's going to be,
Well, so
they are and they can't be anything
me to
else
make the-
but complete condominium units. And that row along Denton Avenue where they butt up against the only other residential neighbor would be proposed to be that. Now, if in fact we build several of those buildings and nobody buys them,
Sure.
we'll come back and talk to you about it because nobody wants buildings
To
that
leave them
don't
empty,
sell.
right? But the
no.
intent of the developer is not to build them and use them as income property. Because right now, the developer owns all the condominium lots that are still available, correct? So I guess my question to the developer, since you represent the developer, is the goal of the developer to build some of these buildings out and turn them into rental units rather than sell them as individual and place them on the market as individual condominium units? Or is the goal to sell the units individually as condominiums as the other portion of the development has been sold?
The intention of this developer is to get these built and sold off as quickly as
Okay,
possible.
all right.
That's his intention all along. And there are some other hidden things too. Until you have more of these units owner occupied, the other unit owners many times can't get a conventional loan on the purchase or sale. So as soon as they have more owner occupying, then there'll be more owners on the association board.
And just to confirm what we discussed, in our strategic future plan for this property, the city in 2017 came up with a future strategic plan for this property. And one of the things that was identified is to try and reduce the density, because you go from single family on Denton to 4-unit family immediately within the development. So what we as staff asked the developer to do is consider making a transition where you go from single family units to 2-family units to 4-family units. So there's a transition across the development of single family to 2-family to 4-family. And the 2-family units that we discussed with Nancy are really going to be more of a luxury type unit. They're going to be large square footage of the unit. They're going to have a lot of garage space. We don't have any single-family homes lots available in the city right now, and there's a lot of demand. I get a lot of calls on people asking for single-family homes. So I think those zero lot line condominium concept will be very popular for people who are looking for single-family homes in St. Francis.
And a lot of people are downsizing now, and they don't want to have to mow the lawn, and they don't want to have to shovel, but yet we all own too much stuff. So having more garage space, having those extra bedrooms,
Built-in
there'll
storage
be
unit.
attic space, we'll see how the market reacts to that. So that's the plan, to have that transition row in there.
What percentage of condos are currently sold on the property, of the ones that are built?
There are, well, there are 88, what is declared as 88 units, and there are 36 that are built and sold, and 52 that are declared but unbuilt.
That's correct. At which point, there are 27 that are, 9 of them are still owned by the developer, but 27 are privately held, are individual owner. So of the 36 built, 27 are privately held at this point.
Well, I'm going to interject here. First of all, I just want to say that I will not be voting on this. I am going to recuse myself from voting on this because of the fact that I am a homeowner on Denton Avenue. So that being straight up front, I realize that we have to get this development developed. I am not going to sit here and say that I want to continue having the same type of issues with the development that we've had for the past 18 years. That's how long we're talking back about when this is supposed to be completed. So now I have trust issues with the developer. I think that Gary should have been a dentist instead of a contractor, because getting him to do anything around that property is like pulling teeth. They still have block, brick, and other building materials on the property behind, behind the buildings, on the corner of those two that are marked yellow on that one, on the long run. No, up. Yes. So if you go behind there, there is building supplies that have been sitting there for the past 18 years, that every time we talk to Gary, Gary's going to take care of that, and Gary is going to remove that, and Gary is going to make the city happy and make the city proud, because he wants to have a good development. Gary has not been a good business citizen. He has not treated the community with respect. He has not completed things that he should have completed in the first agreement. And therefore, that's why I'm going to be recusing myself, because I'm too involved in this. I know this from the beginning, from day one. And if anybody else wants any information from me, I would be happy to give the information. I'm pretty sure that, Matt, the question you had, all those that are on the straight run, though, on there, all those units are, no, on the top. Now go down. All those units going out to
Or,
Pennsylvania Avenue, that whole run, those are all privately owned. The ones that are the rentals are pretty much the ones that are on facing the railroad tracks.
Sure.
So everything else is pretty much where they're at. Now, there may be one or two that are sold and rented, but I'm pretty sure that that's pretty much, I'm pretty much sure that that's the
Off the top of my
case.
head, I know that there are at least 4 of these units in here, at least 4 that are privately owned. Becker is one, Cho is one. I can give you the names of, I think either Mr. LaCroix or Mr. LaRue lives in one of those. There are at least 4 that are privately held. I'm not trying to show you up, but I understand your concern. But on the railroad side, I know of at least 4 that are privately held.
Okay, I'm fine with that. That's not important. And the only other thing that I have before I quietly sit here and listen to the rest of the presentation, if anybody has any other questions. You said that you strive to have the best service to the city as possible when cutting the grass and whatnot. Whoever you had plowing snow on your sidewalks for the city on Denton Avenue, I walk my dog every night. When I have to walk down Denton Avenue, 2KK and Nicholson, the sidewalk is not shoveled. We had 24 inches of snow. I, as a private homeowner, was required to remove the snow from the sidewalk within 24 hours of the snowfall. That did not happen. That did not happen on Pennsylvania, and that did not happen on KK and Nicholson. So I don't know what service you're providing, which is different than minimal service at all. Because once again, you're not being a good corporate citizen to the city of St. Francis when you cannot provide the basic functions of a property owner.
All I can offer you in that is that, I believe you personally have a contact number for me. We have the office, we have contact number on file. This is the first that I've heard about this. And I assure you, we'll be back and it will not happen again. I'm gonna make a call tomorrow to our snow people. I'm not gonna throw under the bus, but if this is the best they can do, we will have somebody else next year. I can tell you that we canned somebody from 2 years ago because the level of service that they were providing was inadequate. So we do try to improve. I was not aware of this situation. I know that there's a 28-inch snowfall, but I wasn't aware of it. Had somebody contacted me, we would have made a point of telling Above the Cut, who is actually pretty well regarded. They have a number of commercial contracts in the area, and they're pretty well regarded. But I'm going to make sure that if this happens again this year with this snowfall, that you will not have to worry about this one more time, now that I've been told. But I just got to say, we would have responded to it had we known. I mean, that's the type of relationship that we are trying to build with the city, is that we get called, we respond.
The last issue I have is when you stated that you made repairs to the fence. Yes, you did. You made repairs to the fence. I am very happy with the repairs that were made to the fence. Although getting to that point, to getting the repairs to the fence, once again, was like pulling teeth. When I reported the fact that the wind, because it's a north wind, hitting that fence, that he did not concrete in posts when he put the fence up. That has now been remedied, and I thank you for that. But when we brought it to your attention, we were accused of the footprints that were walking up to the fence, which were the footprints of the building inspector, because I called the building inspector because the fence had been down. We were accused of that was vandals that knocked down the fence because they got footprints going up to the fence that proves that vandals pushed it down so they would get to it when they got to it. Once again, it's just a pattern of doing business with that developer that has been unacceptable. And it's sad that it's come to this, but I don't know what else to do. When I talk to that guy, it's like pulling teeth.
Up to me, and I'll tell you how this is going to play out. The building that you're talking about with the construction materials behind it. I know that we have at times stored when in the middle of one of the maintenance projects, that the wheelbarrow gets stowed back behind one of those things because we consider it to be.
There are 8 to 10 pallets of either paving brick or block, stone face block, and the stackable block that goes for retaining walls, and the top course block that goes for retaining walls. And it's been there so long that it's garbage. I mean, you can't use it. But there's at least 8 to 10 pallets of material back there, not that there's a wheelbarrow stored back there in the spring.
If you want them gone, I'll get them gone. And we'll be back here in 3 months.
Well, they shouldn't be on the property to begin with. I'm not even sure if that's I'm not even sure if that's your property, or if that's the property that's owned by the railroad company with an easement, because it's so close to the railroad tracks. I don't know, but I do know that there is building materials from that development that have been sitting on pallets behind there. And I realize that things have to change, and I can only hope that this time around, if the Common Council decides that this is what has to be done, I would hope that Gary enters this agreement with a different light, a different mindset, because he has not been conducting business like a guy who wants to conduct business with the city. He's been conducting business like he wants to conduct business like a slumlord. I mean, it's pathetic.
Well, there's not a whole lot I can do to change your perception of that, other than, again, offer.
He needs to change. You work for the man.
Well, I'm just saying.
So all I'm saying, sir, is you need to speak to him, because if we're gonna be doing this, I'm not saying I'm not gonna vote on it, but that's not saying that I don't want the best development possible. So, once it's voted on, if that is the wishes of this common council, I will be making the move to make the best development possible, because it improves the city, it also improves my property. All I'm saying is that somebody needs to talk to this developer and tell him that he needs to look at this with a new pair of glasses and a new attitude, because the attitude he's had for the past 20 years since he started his development has not been good.
Well, let's do this. Bob will make absolutely certain that the city clerk has every contact number that's needed, so that if anything goes up, that's probably, Bob is much more active in taking care of things, because our goal is to get things to the point where it gets developed, it gets built, and he's not someone you have to see anymore, if that's what we need to do. But Bob is willing to be a very good go-between, and that way you don't have to deal with Gary, if that makes things better, okay? And as to the, once the snow melts, we're gonna be able to go to the corner where the survey is and mark whether that's on the railroad property or on the condo property, and we can find out the answer to your question and then let you know. And
Well,
that
even
way-
if it's on the condominium
He just
property,
wants
I
it
don't
moved.
think that property should be there. It makes it
find that
look
out.
like a dump.
We've got a way to find that out. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to make a motion to suspend the agenda and move forward the discussion items for action to further referral to the Planning Commission, Hidden Ponds preliminary PUD.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it.
Fine.
I'm sorry, I just had one more question, or a couple more, if that's okay.
We
So,
moved you up the agenda so we could finish this before you leave.
Yeah, we want you to hear what was going on, and then you can leave.
That's fine, because Todd he wants to sit and wait for me, and he talks about his bonds, so that's okay.
what do you anticipate the, like each unit in the 2x2 buildings to sell for?
That's a hard question. You know, the cost of wood has gone up 400%.
Yeah, everything's up right now.
I know, and it's crazy. But what you're also hearing all over the metropolitan area is that houses don't stay on the market very long, that houses are selling as fast as they can. And people who have been living in their parents' basements are now going to expand into their own households. We do have a couple of sheets from some brokers about comparable prices for sizes, but these are honestly going to be bigger with more amenities than almost another comparable is certainly in St. Francis and maybe even in a few of the communities around it. I don't know yet how they're going to be priced, but at 3,000 square feet with 4 bedrooms and a den, it's going to be high. Now, Bob, you told me that units currently are selling for about what?
165, a couple of deals have fallen through at around 170 for the existing buildings.
Are they falling through because they're not appraising out?
No, they're falling, no, it's got nothing to do with the appraisal, it's simply because of sort of the tenuous nature of when we get to the point of whether this is a warrantable or unwarrantable housing complex at this point, which is for purposes of putting the loan in the secondary market.
Uh-huh.
When we know how we're going forward here, all of this is gonna magically lift. We're gonna be able to refinance these things, or the people who are the financing has been sort of clouded by the development issue right here that we're talking about. But the values have held up.
Okay.
The people who have sold have gotten them, people who have refinanced them for around 150, 55. And I think the demand probably will push it higher than that, especially on those new units. I don't think that's it's not a stretch. 200 might be a stretch.
But if they're double the square footage,
Right.
you would think that they would be upwards of 3.
Just a follow-up question. Once part of the issue with financing some of these units, and maybe one of the reasons why the developer has 7 units that he's holding and renting rather than selling, is because the entire condominium development hasn't been completed. And what you've indicated is once it's completed, then it will be more marketable to
Right.
banks to finance the units. There won't be this cloud over it, so it's likely that even the existing units will increase in value. They're probably undervalued right now in the market based on what the cost of construction is. So it's likely that all the units will come up in value as well as the new units that are being built.
Yeah, that sounds right to me as well. I guess my question is, if we're, and I fully support finishing out this development, but I think like, from your perspective, if there's like a market study or something that says that this is viable, because the last thing I want is half of these units or a third of these units to get built, and they don't sell, and now we've got kind of 2 different kinds of units. It's more unfinished than, arguably than it was before we started doing anything with
Right,
it.
and I hear that, because these are going to be unusually large units. So when we get to the Plan Commission, we start talking about brass tacks, I think the smart thing for everybody to do would be to start cautiously. First of all, the northern end there, where you're filling in one building between 2 buildings that are already built, those all have to stay 4 units. Otherwise, it'll be kind of an odd combination. But I would propose starting 1 or maybe 2 of the bigger units and seeing how the market reacts to it. Certainly doing market studies first. The lender's not going to let us build those units unless they have a market study.
Right.
So that will be part of the process, absolutely. It doesn't help anybody to build a building that doesn't get sold.
So to Mark's point, the problem St. Francis has right now is historically St. Francis is small, 800, 900 square foot, 2-bedroom, 1-bath homes. There aren't a lot of 3-bedroom homes. There certainly aren't a lot of 4-bedroom homes. Any 3 or 4-bedroom are likely in Trestle Creek, and those lots are sold. Over here in Sevier Avenue, they're sold. The luxury condos are selling out as fast as they open them. So I believe there's a market, I agree with Mark, but we don't have multi-bedroom homes in this community, which is something that the community needs.
Right.
So I do agree with him. I think that's something that would be beneficial for this
So
community.
let's try the market, build them, see if they come, and then you can continue building all across that strip. Okay?
Any further questions?
So is the motion to send this to the plan committee?
That would be the motion that would be needed to refer it.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to refer.
I will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you.
Great,
I'm
thank you very much.
recusing, Ken.
Make a motion to resume the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
What's the date on that?
All
commission
opposed?
meeting?
Ayes have it. Citizen comments?
Ken, when's the date on that next meeting
Our meeting?
for the
Planning
planning commission?
Mark?
The planning
It'll be
commission,
at the end of this month.
yeah, it will be the
Wednesday or
the
Thursday,
fourth,
kid? Last Wednesday?
the 4th Wednesday. I'm not sure what date that is.
It would be the 31st. No, the 4th, I'm sorry, it's the 24th. 24th is the
24th, so it'll be
24th?
referred to the
4th Wednesday.
24th, yep.
Yep.
Okay.
6 o'clock. So Nancy, we will send you an email on the, Nancy, we will send you an email on the planning commission agenda. All right, thank you. That'll be the end of this month?
In person?
Yes, yep.
All right, moving on. Citizens' comments, none. Consent agenda. Is there any alderperson that would like anything removed from the consent agenda?
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as listed.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
One note here, we didn't have license committee meeting tonight, and so we didn't approve the minutes from 217.
I'll amend that to have that taken out.
I'll second the amend.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Reports of committees? None. Recommendation of action from committees? None. Resolutions and ordinances?
Resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of $9,815,000 taxable general obligation refunding bonds.
I'll get on my agenda.
Good evening. So prior to the meeting, I had handed out a report summarizing the sale. I'm going to have you jump to the third page of that that says bid tabulation across the top. So we received bids at 10 a.m. this morning. A total of 6 were received. And on this particular page is the winning bid. It came from Baird, along with a host of other firms that partnered with them. The important number here is that true interest rate on the far right-hand column, which is also the basis for award. So in this case, the winning bid has a true interest rate of 1.75%. The other thing I would point out is if you look in the center, there's a rate column. That is going to be the actual interest rate that the city will pay for each different maturity. And the column to the right is what we call the reoffering yield. Now, you'll notice through the year 2028, the reoffering yield is lower than the rate that you'll pay. And what that means is you received a premium bid. So what occurs is those bonds in the years 22 through 2028 will be bought by investors for a price that's greater than their face value. And that creates a sum of money that is a credit to the city in the transaction that we use to downsize the amount of bonds we're issuing tonight. So I'll come back to that in a second. On the following page, you have the remaining 5 bids. So we have a spread anywhere from the winning 1.75% up to the worst bid at 2.08. Had the worst bid been the winning bid, the interest cost to the city would have been about $250,000 more. So this is one of the reasons we always, unless there's a reason not to, advise that you sell your debt competitively, because when you've got competition, you know that in addition to transparency, that you got the best rates available in the market on the day of sale. On page 5, this is the first of a couple spreadsheets. On the very far left-hand column, when I was here a couple meetings ago, you had authorized the issuance of up to $10,065,000 in bonds. And the updated resolution the city was provided today is for $9,815,000. And we're able to, again, make that reduction in the bond size due primarily to that premium that was received. If you look in that far right-hand column, there's a number of numbers there, but the 2 big ones, the 197,074, that's that premium, so that's what you're given as a credit in the transaction. The other thing that was significantly lower is what we call the underwriting discount. So when we offer the bonds for sale, we allow the bidders to take up to a certain dollar amount as their compensation for the underwriting role in the transaction. But in addition to the interest rate, they're also competing on that lowest discount. So in this case, the amount that the winning underwriter Baird took as their compensation was $46,000 less than what we would have permitted. So between that $197,000 premium and that $46,000 in unused discount, that's the $250,000 reduction we were able to make in the bond side. On the fold-out page, this is the refunding bond issuance in its entirety. Also put in the context of the debt that remains that we did not refinance. So in that center shaded area, you'll see the $9,815,000 in terms of that total new bond size. The interest payments will be $142,672. Right below that, I listed the amount that was in the pre-sale estimate, and the important numbers in the yellow box. So as compared to where we had projected 6 weeks ago, your total cost of principal and interest on this issue will be just under $100,000 less. Now, most of this is going to benefit the tax increment districts, but there is a piece of this that is savings for the tax levy. And if you look at that very far right-hand yellow column, over the life of the debt that was refinanced, you'll have a reduction in the debt service levy requirement of $73,872 for the next 7 years. And then the last couple pages deal with each of the individual debt obligations that we financed. So the first was the 2013 C taxable bonds. These were all paid for by TID 4. Again, I highlighted the important number in the lower right-hand corner. The total savings for TID number 4 as a result of this refinancing is a little over $162,000. That's about $19,000 greater than the pre-sale estimate. The next page is the trust fund loan that the city took out in 2018 to pay for both general projects as well as TID 4 and TID 5 projects. Total savings on this loan will be almost $121,000, or about $6,000 better than the estimate. And this one is broken down by savings that benefit the tax levy, TID number 4, and TID number 5. And then the last obligations we refinanced today were the trust fund loans that were taken out by the city to pay the incentive for the Bear project. And total savings on that loan through 2036 will be just over $1.26 million, which is about $74,000 better than the estimate. So all told, as a result of this refinancing, the city's debt service payments will be lowered by approximately $1.55 million. So very nice results. Last item we've included is we always go through the process of talking to the bond rating agencies when we issue debt. So we've placed into the packet to read at your convenience a copy of the credit report that was updated and prepared by Moody's. The city's A1 rating was affirmed. So again, good news there as well. So happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, the updated resolution with the new par amount would be the action item the city would award these bonds.
That's great.
Must feel good to deliver news like this.
The alternative.
Wow.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll move to introduce and adopt the resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of $9,815,000 taxable general obligation refunding bonds.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Appointments to committees, commissions, and boards. None. Correspondence with possible action or referral to committee, commissions, and boards.
Correspondence from the city engineer regarding engineering design services for 2021 road program. The engineering department is still not up to full staff. While we've been able to overfill the technician position with an engineer with less experience, now the project engineer number 1 position, we have not been able to fill the project engineer 2 position with an appropriate candidate. The project engineer 2 position is being advertised again. Due to this continued staffing shortage, I've requested R.A. Smith to provide a quote to perform the engineering services for the mill and overlay projects planned for 2021. The roads are East Botsford Avenue from South Nicholson Avenue to South Pennsylvania Avenue, South New York Avenue from East Botsford Avenue to East Van Norman Avenue, East Armour Avenue from South Pennsylvania Avenue to South Nicholson Avenue, East Allerton Avenue from South Nicholson Avenue to South Delaware Avenue, South Vermont Avenue from East Cudahy Avenue to East Botsford Avenue, South Illinois Avenue from East Armour Avenue to East Botsford Avenue, East Cudahy Avenue from South Illinois Avenue to South Nicholson Avenue. I requested the quote from R.A. Smith only because they did the mill and overlay project on South Kirkwood Avenue in 2019 and already have all the information on how St. Francis does mill and overlay projects. I would have to start over providing all the guidance if I used any other firm. With time being of the essence, getting this project moving forward, I need a firm that already knows all the information. It is my intent to have the new engineer do the field management of the project with some oversight from R.A. Smith as the designing engineer. I've reviewed the quote and find it acceptable.
Melinda, what was the bid on that?
24.9 or
24.
24 something, right?
24.9?
$961.
And that's monthly?
No, that's the
That's a one-time.
cost to design the roads.
Okay.
It's a one-time cost.
I'll make a motion to,
But before we do that, my only question is, here we are again. My question pretty much isn't for Melinda. My question is pretty much for this board as to what we think. I mean, I don't think we've ever gotten together on anything, but the fault of not having people on board to do the job that is required, is that our fault? I mean, we've been doing this year and year and year and year again, and every time this comes up, we always say, well, we should be doing more in-house. And every day it's,
They've only been gone, Don, since January.
We don't
This
have the
hasn't been a
staff.
multi-year issue.
so, Sean,
They've only been gone since
Sean.
January.
Sean, in previous years, when we had road issues and we voted for people to come here, I'm not here for an argument. I'm here for a question, because I think that if getting another person on board, because this isn't the only person that we've hired, that we've had to hire for, and that we've had to cover for. We've done it years past. And maybe we should be changing when we put job orders out, or how we put job orders out, or what we require for job orders. I mean, I think something should be done, because we continually, year after year after year, and with all due respect, Sean, it's been going on for decades, that we've been asking for. Debbie can confirm.
Yes, I do
That
know
we've
that.
always, every time, we can't keep people here for that department. They either had, now this last burst was because of retirement. But we've had issues where they haven't been up to staff in years. Years they haven't been up to staff. And when we are up to staff, they're up to staff for maybe a month. And then something happens, and I mean, the last time we gave the guy the same amount that he was gonna get if he'd went to the other place, and he took our money and then left. So put us right back in the same boat we were in. And my point is, if we can brainstorm, if we're doing something wrong, because we continue to beat our head up against the wall and get the same result. And personally, I think that some of this stuff should be done in-house, if not all of it. But we don't have the staff. And there's a reason why we don't have staff. And I just think that those reasons should be investigated. And if there's anything that we can do that is within our power, that we should be doing it.
Well, maybe Melinda can answer, because I know, Melinda, you had applicants, so nobody was qualified? Are our wages not in range? I mean, I thought we had applicants.
We did have applicants for the project engineer 2 position. In fact, the project engineer 1 was one of the applicants for project engineer 2, but he wasn't quite. He has the minimal amount of experience that we would need.
Okay.
And when we had the applicants for the technician position, we actually had a person that had accepted the position and then rescinded her acceptance of the position. But Mark and I had a long conversation about it, and Mark was very supportive of bringing in his name is Hunter, not to be confused with Police Chief Hunter. So that's going to make some confusion here. But Hunter he's got 5 years of experience, but in construction. So he doesn't have the broad-based experience that we need for, to replace Jim, who had, experience in sewer and water and roads and stormwater, where Hunter is basically DOT building roads. He worked for a private firm that mostly did DOT work. So he knows how to build really super good roads, and he'll do really well, but we have to teach him how to design city roads and how to design sanitary sewer and how to design water and all the things that we do here. And so that's why Mark felt he was a really good fit for like the technician, like overfilling that position and being, if this was old school back when I started, he'd be what we call a junior engineer. And then you work as a junior engineer, and then you get enough experience, and then you get to work as a senior engineer. And so, and that's the position right now that couldn't fill, because the other applicants we had were also very niched kind of applicants that just didn't have the breadth of experience that we need here, because we're small, you need to have experience in all these different areas instead of just designing roads or just designing freeways or just designing sewers. That's not helpful. The senior engineer, needs to have all this experience so that.
Let me ask you this, are there engineers out there like that yet? Or is that something of the past and we have to look for something else or redesign our thinking? There's many different types of engineers. Is that something, are other cities having the same problem, getting an engineer like that? Mark, is that something that, is not obsolete, but maybe the type of engineering I'm saying?
Maybe a little off topic here, we're discussing filling the positions, but to just give you some background, I think we had some candidates that applied, and Steve Waddell was part of the interview committee. I think what we all found was that they had some strengths in some areas of engineering, but they had very little municipal experience. And I think that what Melinda needs in her department, especially for the senior engineer position, under her, somebody with municipal experience. So we're really looking for the ideal candidate would be a candidate that has 3 to 5 years of municipal experience, that understands municipal government. What we were getting is, I think, candidates that had specific engineering experience in the private sector, but not that well-rounded background that we were really looking for a senior engineer. The tech position, we thought we had a person that had municipal experience that was qualified for the position. However, that person, as Melinda indicated, backed out at the last minute. So what we did is we took a person who didn't have the well-rounded experience but had engineering background. They have a 4-year degree in engineering and actually are probably overqualified for a technician position, and made them actually an engineer 1 position, excuse me. And that position now will not only do technician work, but can work on projects for the city. Getting back to what's on your agenda tonight, in defense of the engineering department, there are going to be projects that we're going to bring forward that we can do in-house and we will do in-house, and there will also be projects that we will recommend bringing through a consultant, because sometimes when you're looking at a consulting firm has the breadth of knowledge on the entire project. So they can do everything from the bid spec documents to the inspections of the project at the end. Now, I understand there's a cost to that, but in the whole scheme of things, sometimes it's going to be in the city's best interest to hire an outside engineering firm to work on a project rather than do it in-house. So you'll have to trust us that we're going to be picking projects that we think that the department can do on their own, and then we're going to be picking projects that staff is going to likely say, hey, we think that this should be an outside engineering firm because it's more cost effective. We're not going to be spending all our time in the engineering department working on one project to do bid spec documents, to do this one road project. The problem that we're seeing is that in our budget process, our state transportation aids are dependent on a rolling average of projects that we do over a 3 to 5 year period. So we've gone through kind of this dry spell of really not doing a lot of projects. And so what we're seeing in our state transportation aids is we're seeing reductions on an annual basis of between $30,000 and $50,000 to the budget. Where we save some money tonight on debt service, that can be wiped out very easily if we don't do any projects for 1 year. And that's kind of what's happened over the last couple of years, is we've kind of done minimal amount of projects, which means our rolling average, we have to get that rolling average back up. And the only way to do that, Melinda and I discussed this, is to go with outside engineering right now in order to get those projects in the works for this year. If we don't, we're probably likely gonna take another big hit to our state transportation aids from the state of Wisconsin. So whatever might be a little bit of increased cost here for a consultant could be a much bigger cost to the overall budget in a loss of state transportation aids if we do nothing. So I think staff is recommending right now, and these are all mill and overlay projects, so they're really simple projects. They're not something that requires the whole street to be reconstructed with all new curb and gutter and new utilities. It really are very simple projects that we think can be done by an outside consultant. That's gonna give us more time to hire the other position that we need, and then come forward with the projects that we think are important moving forward. We've got the Norwich Avenue project that probably is gonna be one of our biggest projects. We'd like to get that to the point of bid spec going into next year, so that right away, when the weather breaks in 2022, we can be jumping on that project. Now, that's gonna be a major project, and that's really gonna help our rolling average. So be patient with us, we're working on it. We've had some transition here within the department, but we will get there. It's just gonna be a little bit of time that we're gonna need in order to do that.
Well, I'll move to place Melinda's letter on file and concur with her of hiring R.A. Smith with a cost of $24,961.
Yeah, I'll second, and I just, to kind of tie a bow on the staffing challenges within the department, I think, you know, that it sounds like there's an engineer one who has some of those features. Maybe you guys are looking for another engineer one who can cover the places that are not, you know, strengths of the current person. Because what I would hate to see is we find, you know, that the person currently filling engineer one gets a lot of broad-based experience, then moves on to somewhere else, and, you know, 5 years from now, we're back in the same spot. You know, it'd be nice to grow people within the department, especially given our, you know, kind of unique, you know, position as a smaller city.
So I appreciate your historical perspective from you and Deb. My point
Point of
was,
order, Mayor, we are
Jim?
off of the agenda items.
understood, but
Significantly.
Jim has not been gone. Jim was the change this year. That was my point. So I wasn't arguing your point. Yes, there's been turnover, but Jim has been here for forever. That's
Well,
the
my only
biggest
point was
change.
that I think that we should have been doing things different because of the fact that this is not the first time around. This is not the first rodeo that this council has had with having to go with an outside firm, that people said that they wanted to have stuff done in-house, and it's not happening, and that was my only question.
And that's the last question. We're moving on. Did we get a second?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it.
Correspondence dated February 22nd, 2021, from Beyond Organic regarding community urban garden space. I am writing to seek vacant land to be used as a community urban garden space. We have been involved in several garden projects within the Milwaukee metropolitan area for over 20 years. There is an eagerness in communities throughout the nation during these troubling times to grow local, healthy, organic food. We believe that urban agriculture can be beneficial to the environment and to the health and well-being of community members. Community gardens can mitigate some of the problems that plague urban areas. They can be a beneficial addition to many communities by increasing the availability of nutritious foods, strengthening community ties, reducing environmental hazards, reducing food miles, and creating a more sustainable system. Community gardens can help reduce negative environmental impacts by promoting sustainable agriculture, reducing food transportation costs, and reducing water runoff. Humans, plants, and animals can all benefit from urban agriculture since it creates habitats and improves the ecology of the area. Community gardens increase access to fresh foods, improve food security, increase physical activity through garden maintenance activities, improve dietary habits through education, increase fruit and vegetable intake, reduce risk of obesity and obesity-related diseases, improve mental health, and promote relaxation. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Mayor. I did receive a telephone call from Laura Michelle. She inquired about the former City Hall site for a possible community garden. I indicated that that might not be the best location for a community garden. The city may have other locations that are better locations for a community garden. I did ask her for a copy of a lease. She provided a copy of a lease from UW Regents, which I think was in Park Falls. And they do pay rent on the land. I think that lease, in fact, was approximately $300 a month or $3,600 a year. They need space for two 20 by 96 foot hooped greenhouses. And Melinda's indicated that there are other issues that they, as far as getting water and parking and all the things that go along with a community garden. The goal is not to make a decision tonight. If the city is interested in exploring this, we can have staff work with the individual on maybe some of the other parcels that we may have, maybe at the end of the Neashing Trail over here. Behind City Hall might be a good location. It's next to the sister's property. That may be a better location, certainly, than the old City Hall site, if that's something.
What about next to Wixon?
Pardon? Next to Wixon? They'd have to put it in between all the pipes that we've got out of the ground. But I guess the point is we're not requesting you make a decision on this tonight. If you're interested with staff, Paul and I could work on a lease agreement. We could talk about a site. We could,
What would be the appropriate committee for this to go to? Planning Commission, Public Works, who would be the appropriate committee after you do that?
It's not a Board of Public Works project by virtue of their charter under the statute. Mark and I did look at it. It's not required that it go to the Plan Commission by statute, but if you wanted it to go to a committee, that would be the most appropriate one, in my opinion. Otherwise, as Mark indicated.
I think we would have to know what sites are available. That would be high on my list. I lived near where the airport, when we had across from Wixon, community gardens that were the county gardens, and they were a mess, and they were a mess forever. And you walk past it, and people didn't take care of it, and I would really need to know where we would place something like this, and these hoop houses are large. So, before I would even want to vote on anything, I'd like to know what land we'd be thinking of considering.
Right. And
Well, I think that's what the goal is tonight is, are we interested enough to say, yes, we should start seeking out sites?
or you can say no.
Well, from my point of view, personally, I am not in favor of this. I don't have any of the interests that they have for their listed of why it should be there. I don't think that I would have a argument with good health and all that kind of stuff that they have listed here. My only issue is with the point that it's going to be going on city property. And you have, as Debbie said, the gardens that I've seen over time have deteriorated to the point that it's an eyesore. And how long are we going to allow rental of the city property? I mean, when do we anticipate the economy to open up where we can get rid of some of these properties? I mean, I was never in favor of the city gathering property. We just never got rid of it since this building has been built. And then with other issues that have surrounded not only this community but the world, off its kilter a little bit, and all of a sudden now nobody's doing anything. We have to wait until it opens up again. But just like my final thought is, just like homeowners that live on a block, you can have four 4 homes that keep their houses up, hang Christmas tree lights, and make their property look beautiful. And then they got a neighbor who has a gravel driveway and he refuses to blacktop it, and he has trees that should be cut down because they've been dead for a couple of years. And you're gonna have the same thing with the garden. I mean, you're gonna have some, you're gonna walk by and you're gonna say, boy, this person really takes care of the garden, and you're gonna walk by the next one and it's all gonna be dead. So I would not personally be in favor of this.
Melinda?
And Alderwoman Fliss may remember when you were on Board of Public Works before, this was an issue that was looked at Board of Public Works. So we did find some sites, and we had narrowed it down to a couple sites. We can bring those back if the council wants us to continue moving forward, but it had been at Public Works before and discussed quite thoroughly at that time, and decided not to move forward at that time.
Yeah, we did look at all the problems that could exist. So I'm not in favor of it either, truthfully. I would not
Are
vote
they
for
looking
it.
at just putting up greenhouses and everything's gonna be inside of these greenhouses?
My understanding is everything goes inside, they're raised beds, so they build raised beds.
Okay.
And bring in the compost and put it in the raised beds, and then the greenhouses are basically temporary buildings, they're hoop structures. So they put up hoops and then they put a plastic roof over it to create this greenhouse. I did ask about whether they needed heat, and they said no, that the composting on the inside creates enough heat on its own to keep the greenhouses 50 degrees or higher year-round inside the greenhouse. So there would be no need for bringing in heat.
How long would we be talking about the,
Well, that's up to the lease. I mean, I think some of these are in the details. It's just, I didn't, she was inquiring about the old city hall site, and I just didn't think that was something that was the right location for a community, certainly for a community garden.
I would agree with you on that
Yeah,
site.
and we own a lot of I mean, we own all the old former We Energies property. I just didn't know if there was some other site maybe that the city might consider, but again, this is a policy decision.
Well, that
up to
site
the
just
council.
doesn't make any sense. That's like allowing a veterinary hospital to go into the St. Francis Brewery. It just makes no sense.
And if I could put my 2 cents in theory, I think it's a great idea. In practice, it has failed a bunch of times. It's got a history, a track record of failing.
And my only thing is, I think if it's inside a greenhouse, it's self-contained, and are you really seeing anything inside that greenhouse?
Not unless the wind blows it down.
Well, yeah. I
It's
mean,
only mills, it's all it is plastic loops that go over the raised bed, wood or metal, whatever it is. It's screwed into the bottom. And then they put either 8 mil or 10 mil or 20 mil clear plastic over the top of it.
Yeah, I don't.
And when the wind hits it, what if we get 28 inches of snow next year?
So-
Now, it's not a permanent structure. It's not meant to be a permanent structure. So we're gonna have to go in and police the fact that their gardens ain't kept up. I
Mark.
just don't think it's a
And
good
if
idea.
that's the case, then no, I don't support that.
So if the motion is you don't want to take any action, just receive and file the communication. You're
Yes,
not
that
taking
would
any
sounds good.
action on it
Yes,
then.
I would make a motion to receive and file.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Moving on. Unfinished business, none. Other business, none. Department heads, Melinda?
Thank you, Mayor. In your packet, you have informational update on the 794 resurfacing project that's going to occur this year. I attended a virtual meeting last week about the project, and so the project is scheduled to start in April and is supposed to be completely done by August 27th of 2021. They are doing another mailer to all the properties along 794 and, maybe a couple rows out from there, giving a new update on the schedule. And I think I reported a couple months ago that they had done a major change in this project where they're going to do the majority of the construction at night. So the curb and gutter replacement, the base repair, and a lot of the milling work will be done at night. And so the Lake Parkway will be closed completely during the night, and it'll be open to traffic during the day. And I've kind of laid out what they gave us as the schedule for that, so you can see that there. We'll be posting this to the website, the city website, and we'll also put a link on our city website linking to the 511 Wisconsin DOT informational website. So, yes, sir.
Open during the day or just one lane open during the day?
So on it switches with the peak traffic. So northbound traffic will have 2 lanes open during the peak time, which is Monday through Friday, 5:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. And then the southbound will have 2 lanes open Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. Otherwise, it'll be 1 lane in each direction. 1 lane in each direction, and then full closures at night. So, but they felt that this was a pretty good compromise, and the traffic patterns, those times were picked based on the data that they received from the traffic cameras and all the operation control center that the DOT operates. So it's data based on real traffic data that they had. So I wanted to provide that update to all of you. And again, as soon as I get some more, the actual mailer, we'll get that posted to the website. We'll get the links up so that people can, everybody can understand what's happening there. And then secondly, we do have the new hire of Hunter Lang. He is engineer, and we're very excited to have him come on board. He starts next week, Monday, and I have a lot of work to dump in his lap. So I'm very, very excited about having him. And then lastly, we are still doing some work on snow. But we're getting to the point where it's really, we're down to the last of it, and we're transitioning into tree removal. And so with that, I pass.
Thank you. Chief Poplar?
Just a few things. In the next 2 weeks, you're going to see, and I can't speak for the police department, but I know they'll be out there. We're going to be doing hands-on training on the 2 buildings that the city owns on Layton Avenue. So if you see the crews out there, and I believe the police department and the SWAT team, it's going to be in the next 2 weeks. So the weather's let up enough for us to train, and everyone's vaccinated, so we can start getting together with some group training. So we'll be out there with our crews and our mutual aid partners. I will have the fire department's annual report for you hopefully before the weekend, but I'll get it emailed to everybody, and then we'll get it on the agenda for the next meeting. And then just one last thing, happy to announce we're going to be hosting the Honor Guard Clinic in School, the National Honor Guard Clinic at the City of St. Francis. That's going to take place April 27th through May 1st. So one of the most revered and notorious Honor Guard schools, headquartered in Milwaukee, but we are going to be hosting it. It's been in operation since 2005, veteran owned, and we're happy to be a part of it. So actually they have a picture of the City Hall Rotunda on their website, for registration. The Lions Club has been, and Paul has been gracious enough to give us their parking lot, and we have enough room for the class size for ample social distancing. So it's a big thing, hopefully for our businesses and for the airport area. So, and with that, I pass.
Thank you. Chief Hunter?
Thank you, Mayor. I have 2 officers right now that are currently in basic SWAT. They're to replace Sergeant Skrivanik and Detective McManus, who resigned due to their positions. That's Officer Barris and Officer Buck. Those 2 will be replacing the other 2 on the Social Drug Tactical Unit. We will also be training at those buildings. We have been training at those buildings quite frequently. However, we'll be utilizing that time to put gas into the building and whatnot. Also, we have the Citizens Police Academy coming up starting March 24th. We have I think a class of 12, which is we wanted to keep it nice and tidy for social distancing. So that starts March 24th, and it goes until May 19th, which is graduation. And I just wanted you all to also know that the General Dollar was burglarized yesterday via rooftop. The individual should have been on dumb as criminals. He fell through the ceiling tiles of the roof, landed on some nails. I don't know how he didn't bleed, but he didn't bleed, so we don't have DNA. He tripped an alarm when he tried to get in the back office, which is the only alarm that it's an audible alarm, and one of our officers driving through the lot heard the audible alarm, found the front door open, hence finding the video and whatnot. He got away with absolutely nothing. What we're looking at right now is that about 10 years ago we had a series of rooftop burglaries at the 2 strip malls, Windmill Square and Layton, the Layton Avenue one, 3000 East Layton. And the one individual that was put away for that burglary has recently got paroled. So that may be who we're looking at. So I just wanted you guys aware of that, and that's all I have.
Thanks, Chief. Ann?
As you noticed, we rolled out our new city website last week Thursday. We are working through bumps and glitches with it, but it looks really nice when you look at it on a big screen. And like I said, we were just working through how to get things posted, how to get it correctly. We had some issues with phone views on it, so we are working with that. If you've noticed in the general office area, we seem to be short some people. We have somebody out that probably be out until the end of March, and Kelly is working. She's trying to work full days, but is still recovering from surgery, so she's been a little flexible, so we ask for your patience. And last but not least, March 20th is the Civic Association Spaghetti Dinner. They're doing it by drive-through only this year. It's $9 a ticket, and it's important to help support that event so that they in turn can give scholarships to our high school students. And with that, I pass.
Thank you. Paul?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just wanted to report that we did conclude the closing on Friday for the property at 3865 South Packard Avenue, and the city now holds the deed to that property. And with that, I'll pass.
Thank you, Mark.
For $95,000, so we purchased it for. We did get a request from the school district to place a banner, a 5-foot by 8-foot banner on the corner property at KK and Howard, informing the voters that there is a referendum vote as of April 6th that doesn't take a position on the referendum one way or the other, because school districts can't take positions on referendums. But you will see a banner that will be placed up on our property on the corner of KK and Howard. That I discussed with the mayor, and he okayed that. So that's all I have. I'll reserve the rest of my comments for closed session.
Thank you. Debbie?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Sarah?
I'll pass as well, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Sean?
Ann, sorry to hear you're down a few people. Chief Hunter, you had some losses past year. You filled them rather quickly. I know your team picked up overtime in the process. Appreciate that. Chief Poplar, you've had some losses in your department as well. Sorry, Melinda. And when you have losses, there is no engineer to pull from. So unfortunately, you do have to come to us and ask us for what you did this evening. So I want to acknowledge that although all of you have departures, we do the best we can to fill them. You just have no backup. On that, I'll pass.
Thank you. Don?
A couple of things, I guess, Hunter, that explains the inmate food that was placed on the budget report. Inmate food, I guess that would cover the guy that broke into this dollar store. And Melinda, I hope you didn't think that I was jumping on the DPW, because I'm not. I just think that as a council we're doing something wrong, because for the past, as Sean says, you have no backup. Well, that should not be an excuse. You should have backup as the head of that department. You should have backup, and that I do believe that falls on us. And maybe my harsh tones resonated from the Hidden Ponds discussion, because I've been living
Oh,
in,
that goes way back.
I've been living behind a slum property
I thought he was well composed.
for a long time.
That's why you ran.
And yes. And it's still here 18 years later. It's ridiculous. And my only question on that is, Paul, she was, the attorney, I didn't want to invoke your input and get a discussion in between two attorneys, because at that point,
It's all over.
well, I lose interest fast.
I think, I'm not trying to take that.
All I'm asking, Paul, she had stated stuff about there's stuff that we cannot change and that we have to abide by, and I was under the understanding, and I do realize that they're bringing up a new plan for which we had discussed in the past, as to what we would want as a city on a development. But is what she had just came out and stated as fact?
Well, can't,
I'm just asking you for a clarification on some of that
can't
stuff.
maybe a little strong. I think she qualified it during her presentation. So there is a condominium plat that has been recorded against the property. But as she indicated, to change the condominium plat would require approvals of current owners, the developer who owns property, as well as all the mortgage lenders of anyone on the property. So I wouldn't say it's impossible. It would be work for them to do that. I would also point out that, with regard to your input on the issue, simply the fact that you live on Delaware Avenue alone, in my opinion, would not preclude you from.
I understand that, but I'm just, everybody here knows how I feel, and I'm pretty sure that I can rely on my colleagues so that it doesn't be construed as the fact that I'm making a decision on a property where I have an interest, because I do have a strong interest, and I would not be able to sit here and say that I do not have an interest, because I do.
Well, and we can talk about that separately, but again, so does everyone else on Delaware Avenue, and so I'm not
Denton.
aware that, excuse me, on Denton.
I understand that, but Paul, not everybody else on Denton Avenue has been involved as to where they have a vote as to whether the fact that gets completed or not. So I'm not, personally, I'm just legally or not legally obligated, I don't really care, I'm just not gonna do it.
I can respect it. So again, with regard to the issues that were raised, I would point out that there are, the city does have authority under its PUD ordinance with respect to requiring certain financial guarantees that, again, may not have been present in the original PUD agreement, but that certainly we would be looking at in the current one as far as how this matter should move forward as we discuss it with the Planning Commission.
Initially, our discussion, when we started talking with Hidden Ponds, it was a little combative, that they took the position that they didn't have to go back through the PUD process, that this was a approved development, and we had indicated that no, that the development agreement and the PUD ordinance had expired because of the length of time that had passed since the last building had been built and the development was proposed. I do agree with Paul that, and the developer, that if we would have requested something like, you have to come in with single-family homes only, you can't build this out as a condominium development anymore, that would have been a challenge, and I think that they would have challenged us. But instead, what we attempted to do is we attempted to compromise with them to allow them to develop certain portions of the development similar to the way it currently is built out, especially those properties that are backed up against the railroad tracks and backed up against the industrial property, but having some transition moving to the single-family residential is the best alternative, and something that I agree with Sean 100%. I think these units these 12 units are going to sell even before they have them completed. That's how fast these units are going to sell, because we get people all the time contacting the city saying, hey, do you have any single-family lots available? Are there any homes available? And we tell them the same thing, you know, look on MLS, and they're saying, hey, you know, every house that comes up, I've got 3 offers on it within 2 days, and they're selling for 30 to 40% more than assessed value. So, in fact, we just had a house, 856 square feet on North Pennsylvania. It was assessed at 117.5 and it sold for 170, and it didn't last
Oh my
4 days.
gosh.
It didn't
I think I'm
last.
putting my house on the market.
It didn't last 4 days, so.
Moving into that 3,000 square foot condo.
I think that they will fly off the market if we keep the market that we currently have. But all I'm saying is that we did work with them to get it to this point, and we're making them go back through the process so that the planning commission has a say and the council has a say on what the end development's gonna be.
Thank you. Matt?
I have nothing tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Steve? I got about 20 pages I need to go through. I have nothing. We'll be convening to closed session, and
We need a motion to convene into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Stat Section 1985 Sub 1E for the purpose of deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. Items for discussion, acquisition of real property within TID 4 and potential development proposal TID number 5. I need that motion.
I will make that motion.
I'll second. Whoever.
Open fire.
Aye.
Alderman Calderon,
Aye.
Alderman Fless,
Aye.
Alderman Wadaba,
Aye.
Alderman Damon,
Aye.
Alderman Brickner.